Today we're going to discuss how to get a copy of your immigration file from the USCIS and the EOIR. The first question is, why should I get a copy of my immigration file? Well, for one thing, your whole immigration history is in that file. So unless you've saved all the papers over the years that the government's given you, and there'll be a lot of papers in the file the government did not give you, you may want to take a look at that file before you file any applications with the Immigration Service. Let me give you an example to illustrate that. A lot of people who have come into the U.S. not legally and then they marry a citizen are still eligible to adjust their status and get their permanent residence card without leaving the U.S. under a section of law called 245I. But you may be qualified for 245I based on a petition that your aunt or uncle or grandmother or grandfather filed for your parents many years ago when you were a kid. Who's going to have a copy of that application? Well, there's somebody. It's in the immigration file. And so that's one good reason to get it. Also, maybe you were in front of an immigration judge and you don't know whether you were deported or you got voluntary departure. Well, that EOIR file is going to show this. Imagine you're in a poker game and you have a couple of jacks and a couple tens and you're thinking, wow, this is pretty good. It's not the best, but it's pretty good cards. Should I bet $1 or should I bet $100? And there's really no way to know. But in the immigration law field, there is a way to know. You can see your opponent's cards by getting a copy of your file. And we do this about 100 times a year, and we find it's very, very effective. So how do you go about getting a copy of your file? Well, you use something called FOIA, or the Freedom of Information Act. And this allows you to get a file from almost any government agency, although we're only going to concentrate on 2 of those agencies today. And for those agencies, you want to use a Form G639. And good news, it's one-page form. Even better news, there's no filing fee. And you can go to our page or to the Immigration Service page, and you can download that form for free. Now, the other question is, well, should you have an attorney or not have an attorney? And of course, I'm an attorney, but let me try to be real about this. I mean, not everybody needs an attorney to do their immigration work. But one thing you should consider is, what is your immigration status? For instance, if you're not legally in the United States, do you really want to give the Immigration Service your address so they can send you the file? It's probably not a great idea. When an attorney fills it out for you, the attorney puts their address, so the Immigration Service has no idea where you live, and they can't come out and arrest you or do anything like that. And then secondly, if you have a complicated file, do you want it to get reviewed and analyzed? Well, unless you're an immigration lawyer, who's going to do that for you? Hopefully not a notario or a consultant. You want to hire the best immigration attorney that you can get. And then finally, the Immigration Service doesn't always give you all the paperwork in your file. And the ones they don't give you, whether it's pages or lines or words on the file, they call that redacted materials. So you get 60 days to appeal that decision, and you may get more information than you initially got. In order to appeal it, you're going to need an attorney who knows something about the ins and the outs of the FOIA law. So let's talk about USCIS files. The first question you should ask yourself is, do you have an alien number or an A number? If you do, immigration files, all their files by that number, and it's very easy to get the file. If you don't have it, it's going to be a lot more problematic. How long does it take to get a file? Well, I mean, it's supposed to take no longer than 20 days, but in actuality, it may take 4 to 6 months Immigration has a huge backlog. How about if you had an ICE agent who came to your house? That's the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Well, you know what? The ICE file will be contained in your USCIS file. USCIS, I should mention, is the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. And in that paper, in the G629, they ask you, what is the purpose of requesting your file? We never say the purpose. We just say, would like to get copy of complete administrative file. So let's switch over to EOIR. What does that stand for? Well, that is the Executive Office for Immigration Review, and two of the sub-agencies are the Immigration Courts and the Board of Immigration Appeals. If you've ever been to immigration court, you'll definitely want to get a copy of that file. If you're presently undergoing removal proceedings before a judge or an appeal before the BIA, you can get your request expedited. So instead of waiting months, you'll only wait days or a few weeks at the most. If, however, you have a final order of deportation against you, immigration may refuse to give you the file. They call that the fugitive disentitlement doctrine. That gets a little complicated. You should talk to a lawyer about that. So what are our recommendations for how to use the Freedom of Information Act? When you're thinking about doing your case, you know, a lot of people are in a big rush. I know I'm not the most patient guy in the world myself, and they want everything filed fast. You know, what my recommendation is do it right. Worry about speed later, because if you do something wrong and end up in a deportation hearing because you're not qualified for a benefit, you're going to wish you had followed that advice. So follow these 3 steps. 1, you submit the FOIA request to the government. 2, you, or hopefully your attorney, reviews that file, every page, very carefully. And 3rd, the attorney gives you what we call an opinion of counsel letter. After reviewing the file and finding, 2 or 3 pages of things that the attorney will write you in the opinion of counsel letter, we think your alternatives are A and B is the better alternative. So please take my advice. If there's any complications in your immigration history, the smartest thing you can do is order a copy of your immigration file.